This is Doug Mon. I'm in the Fine Arts Control booth this morning. I've been asked to introduce some of this morning's presenters. So let's get started with CSI Executive Vice President, Chief Academic Officer, and Idaho mountain climber extraordinaire, Dr. Todd Schwartz.
Welcome everyone and good morning. I have to say you're a sight for sore eyes. You've been gone too long. I can't begin to tell you what your presence and return to campus means to me and to the college. We missed you. Welcome back. While we can't all be here together this morning, I'm looking forward to us all gathering up a bit later. In case you haven't seen them, we have some new tents set up on the plaza just outside. So thank you, Mr. Harmon, Spencer, and those responsible for that. While we're going to focus this morning and this week on looking forward, I did want to spend just a few minutes to take a step back. There are some things that need to be said about last spring and this past summer. I ran into my colleague, Mark Wasden, a month or so ago, and he articulated a thought as we discussed what we'd been going through since the 1st of March. He said something that I'd been feeling. I've never been so proud to be a part of this institution. What all of you did and continue to do on behalf of our students in the college was and is nothing short of magnificent. And you did it with grace and care and patience through everything. I don't recall hearing one complaint from anyone. When the course evaluations came back and we looked at those, the vast majority of our students said we did right by them and they were satisfied with what we'd done. Every cloud has a silver lining. Well, I'm not sure that's completely accurate, but the sentiment rings true. In the midst of difficulty, some good can come of it. A few years ago, Matthew Quick wrote a novel that was made into a movie called The Silver Linings Playbook. I saw the movie, and it was pretty good, actually. And the title was interesting to me. I thought it was catchy, but I didn't really think about it much until lately. Now, I think it's quite profound. I'm not sure what the author really intended it to mean, but I think it's about having a plan and an intention to focus on the positive when struggles occur. What all of you did last spring and this summer is write the playbook, even while the game was being played. In case you didn't know it, there is no community college administrator's manual. I can't go over to my shelf and find in chapter 43, what to do in a pandemic. It takes a group of people doing the best they can to share what they know, what they've seen, what they've heard, and make the best decisions they can. No one person knows what to do in circumstances such as these. Since the 1st of March, many people in various groups have been meeting and doing just that. We leaned on each other and made some very difficult decisions in a rapidly changing world. And again, I am so proud of being a part of that group. And those groups, from the cabinet to the emergency management team to the instructional deans and everyone else who spent many long hours reacting to our circumstances and planning for next week, I couldn't be prouder of you. Chuck Swindoll speaks to how we respond to things in a brief but powerful reflection on attitude. He says that while we can't control much about our lives and our lot, there's one thing we have complete control over: our attitude. Specifically, he says, we cannot change our past. We cannot change the fact that people will act in a certain way. We cannot change the inevitable. The only thing we can do is play the one string we have, and that is our attitude. I am convinced that life is 10% what happens to me and 90% how I react to it. What you've done and been able to do is inspiring. Now, as we look forward, there is very little we can control except our response. Last spring and this summer, you demonstrated to me that you all have the right stuff. But we can't do this on our own. We need each other. Don't be afraid to ask for help, and don't be slow to offer it. Don't try to do it all on your own. Even though we aren't all together this morning, we are no less a team. While John Kennedy was describing liberty rather than academic success, I love these words he spoke as he was inaugurated. Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, any friend, oppose any foe to assure that survival and the success of liberty. I've seen you do this firsthand. Thank you so much. This morning we'll be recognizing a number of people who exemplify this commitment to excellence. In particular, we were anxious to make a presentation to Dr. Cindy Bond. By the way, her successor claims that Cindy had a premonition about this disruption and decided to retire in the nick of time. Cindy isn't able to be here this morning, but we will recognize her at some future point as CSI's very first Dean Emeritus, an honor long overdue. At commencement in 2019, our students recognized two outstanding faculty. We'll be honoring the 2020 recipients in a few minutes, but for now, I'd like to ask Kim Prestwich and Candace Bosiger to come forward to the stage. While they're coming up, some of you may not know that while the college and the foundation provide a cash award, a plaque, and a medal to be worn at graduation, the recipients are also designated a place of honor at the National Institute for Staff and Organizational Development, or NISOD, convening each year. We've received those recognitions and present them now. Kim and Candace represent the very best of our faculty and all those things that make CSI what it has been, what it is, and what it will be. Thank you so much for your commitment to the community college and College of Southern Idaho mission. Finally, here's another expression that some of you may have heard in the past or even said yourselves. I hope you're proud of yourself. I know I've heard it too many times, but let me say it a bit differently, with all sincerity, with as much gratitude as I can express. It is my hope that you are indeed proud of yourself. While pride and ego can get in our way sometimes, you have much to be proud of. Let's all continue to respond to our difficulties with grace and care. You've got the playbook. You wrote it. I'm tired of planning. I'm tired of talking about it. I just want our students back. And they are coming back, by the way, in droves in just one short week. I wish it was today, frankly, but I'll wait another week and then I'll witness the miracle that you all share in together, a commitment to do whatever it takes to ensure the success of our charges. Thank you for all that you do. Have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and an amazing semester. Welcome back.
It is now our pleasure to hear from this year's president of the Associated Students of CSI. Would you please welcome Angel Montez de Oca.
Hello, Golden Eagles. Welcome to the fall semester here at the College of Southern Idaho. After being away from campus for 5 months, it's a pleasure to see familiar faces as well as new ones. One of the reasons on why students are excited to be on campus, even if there are new safety protocols, is to experience some type of normalcy with some face-to-face classes and involvement opportunities. Believe it or not, students also love engaging with their professors, especially the ones that go the extra mile to get to know their students more personally. Although, with some classes switching to a hybrid format or being fully on Zoom, students are concerned with how their education will be affected this semester. Yet, I know that the professors here at the college will give it their best efforts to help their students attain as much knowledge as possible. They will also be more accessible and make their best efforts to fulfill their students' needs. Students are also excited to interact with their peers this upcoming school year. During the summer, I've been working with the Student Senate and other student leaders on how we can ensure students enjoy their time here at CSI. With events still being held with all accommodations, precautions will be made to make sure that the students feel comfortable while attending events and their overall experience at the College of Southern Idaho. Whether that is sanitizing areas that are most often touched, extending the times and dates, or even providing alternative options like to-go activities. We will be doing our best to make sure to keep ourselves and the students safe. At the end of the day, we're all here for our students and should take the time to make the environment welcoming and comfortable. It's been a chaotic past few months, but it's time to put that behind us and start the semester strong. The students are thankful for being able to have the opportunity to be on campus this year. I am honored for having this opportunity to lead the student body and plan to make it one of the best years yet. Please feel free to reach out to the Student Senate with any suggestions you have. Go Eagles!
Our next speaker is my longtime friend, physical education instructor, and inspiration. And I'm certain that more than half the folks in the Magic Valley can make the same claim. She proves that perpetual motion really is possible. And she's the chair of the College of Southern Idaho Board of Trustees, Jan Mittleider.
Welcome, everybody. Is this comfortable? Can you hear me okay? Okay, great. I am so glad to see you. I am so glad to see anybody. And I know that there are not only people in this room that are here, but there are many people tuning in. And so I just want to say a special welcome, welcome. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, it is really a pleasure for me to stand here today and launch this fall semester. Before we actually get into our remarks, I do want to introduce you to the members of the Board of Trustees who happen to be here today. Jack Nelson is from Jerome. He is a dairy farmer, and he is also a former adjunct faculty member in music. Scott McClure is also from Jerome. He owns an engineering firm, and he actually hires people who've successfully completed their training here at CSI. And Anna Scholes, a community volunteer extraordinaire, and also a pharmacist who also has been a former adjunct faculty member. Today, yes. Laird Stone, who is a practicing attorney, could not be here today, but many of you already know him because he is a very strong advocate for students and also created the legal free law service for students. And I just have to say that this is an extraordinary moment for me because 50 years ago on this very week, I showed up in a brand new car, my first car, with everything that I owned in the backseat of my car. And now today, my cleaning supplies wouldn't fit. And I thought for sure that I was going to come here and spend only 1 year, and then I would be moving on. And at the time, the original president, Dr. James Taylor, who happened to be a very fine charmer, was taking me through, with hard hats on, through the gymnasium who was in the process of being built. And he said in only the way that he can, now over here on the north side, we're going to build a swimming pool. And I have to tell you that I am afraid of water, I hate water, and I thought, oh, when that swimming pool comes, I am gone. I'm for sure not going to be here more than 1 year. Well, they never built the pool and I never left. So it is a real pleasure for me to stand before you as part of the Board of Trustees. We are strong in our commitment to this college, as you can see. We also have something coming up as a new election, and we as a board promised the candidates for president, including our brand new president, that we would actually run one more time. So 3 of us out of the 5, Jack Nelson, Laird Stone, and myself, are going to be running for re-election on November 3rd in an effort to keep this board stable during a time of unprecedented change with declining state dollars, the pressure of providing excellent services safely during a pandemic, and the transitioning from the 4th to the 5th presidency. So I do want you to know about that. Last week, Senator Jim Risch and Representative Mike Simpson were here on campus to offer the congressional recognition to our recently retired President Jeff Fox. Risch described CSI as having the reputation of being nimble as we continue to improve what we do. And yes, we are nimble. And yes, we will continue to be even in a pandemic. It is a very unusual time for all of us. The start of the academic year has always been a time of new beginnings, a time for catching up with colleagues, a time for excitement, a time for hope. Hope, seeing the possibility in spite of being surrounded by uncertainty, and there is plenty of that. How can we safely provide a wide range of services? How can we juggle children if we still have them at home with uneven schedules and still do our jobs effectively? How can we adapt to a virus outbreak if it should happen? How can we avoid hanging out with anxiety, something that 1 in 3 Americans are experiencing right now? How can I communicate effectively with a muffling face mask? We are filled with questions. Never have we launched a fall semester like that. Yet, there have been months of planning for a safe return to the campus with appropriate backup plans. Let me just extend a sincere appreciation on behalf of the Board of Trustees for all that you have done and that you will continue to do as we navigate an uncertain landscape, as we provide renewed focus on increasing student enrollment, as we provide increased focus on improving the student experience on campus and on our outreach centers with our dual credit partners and with virtual student opportunities. A special shout out goes to the maintenance team who continue to work through the time when nobody else was here to maintain a park-like atmosphere for our campus, in addition to assuming multiple new responsibilities in safekeeping classroom spaces. You know, as you grow older, you realize that you know less and less. But there is one thing I know for sure, and that is CSI has been the greatest thing that has happened to this area since irrigation. And it continues to be, thanks to the lift of the people in the past whose shoulders we stand upon. under the leadership of Dr. James Taylor, under the leadership of President Jerry Meyerhofer, under the leadership of President Jerry Beck, and under the leadership of Jeff Fox. And a thanks goes to you who make this place where hope abounds, where life transformations occur, many times for people who would not have the opportunity otherwise. I know you know these things, but in times of crisis, we need to remind ourselves. Today, we welcome President Fisher, who returns to Southern Idaho after childhood experiences here as he assumes the administrative reins in these very uncertain, exciting, and hopeful times. Dean Fisher's passion for community colleges began with his own experiences as a student in a community college. That initial experience provided the impetus for his more recent achievement, and that is a doctorate in higher education administration from Gwinnett Mercy University in Pennsylvania. He has spent almost 30 years in the Oklahoma system of higher education, where he has been a faculty member whose range of expertise stretches from medieval history, general humanities, to lessons in leadership. He has served as a student services administrator and taught while he was an administrator at least one class most semesters. Most recently, Dr. Fisher served as vice president of SUNY Community College in Corning, New York. He has been recognized for excellence many times during his professional career and in his service to community. In addition to his collegiate roles, he has served as chief of staff in the U.S. House of Representatives. Now you wonder why he had that opportunity. He was serving under a childhood friend who was a representative from Oklahoma. Dr. Fisher has been here only 2 months, and let me tell you, he gets around. One administrator said, I feel like I should introduce him to a few more people, but he may know more people than I do. He has a wide range of experiences and expertise, coupled with an energetic work style that will serve our college well. You may feel like you're already somewhat acquainted with him with his weekly presidential notes. This new president is the ideal tenant. I heard that from his landlord. He said, he is the ideal president because he is never, as a tenant, because he is never home. That's because Dean Fisher is totally focused on his new passion, and that passion is us, and the students and the communities we serve. I invite Jack Nelson, who is serving as the clerk for the Board of Trustees, to come to the stage as we prepare for a public reception, an investiture for our new president as he assumes his new role. Usually investitures are formal, filled with dignitaries and plenty of pomp and circumstance. As much as we would relish the opportunity to recognize President Fisher in such a traditional manner, current circumstances make it impossible and overly expensive. But that does not diminish the power of the transition for CSI. It is a time for celebration. It is a time for exciting opportunities. It is a time for hope in spite of the pandemic. So at this time, I invite Dr. Fisher to come forward in front of the tables, and I invite Trustee Nelson to take the medallion. The medallion has the seal of the presidential seal for the College of Southern Idaho. And as you will join me, as he does present this to Dr. L. Dean Fisher, please join the Board of Trustees and all of us. Please join together as we congratulate and welcome the 5th president of the College of Southern Idaho, Dr. L. Dean Fisher.
Well, thank you, Chair Mitleiter, and thank you, Trustee Scholes, McClure, and Nelson, and Trustee Stone in his absence for being a part of supporting the institution in the past and in the future. I've got a PowerPoint presentation that will help guide me in my comments, but as you might know, I pace a little bit when I visit, except in board meetings, and I don't really relish sitting behind or standing behind the podium. Well, again, thank you for being a part of the Back to School activities here at the College of Southern Idaho, and I'm delighted to engage in my inaugural welcome back. Last Friday's President's Notes was a little bit emotional to me as I was writing that evening before and getting ready to send it out. And I came across a quote from Maya Angelou. Those of you that are familiar with Maya Angelou, the great American poet, paraphrasing, she wrote in one of her books, one of her poems, "Hope and fear can't live in the same space. Invite one." And I'm going to invite us to allow hope to be a part of our future because there's enough fear out there. I have over there under the post a prop I was going to use, but I can remember it. When you look at a news portal and you see the news headlines, craziness in elections, craziness in the economy, I mean, for goodness sakes, the fire tornadoes that are now being forecast by the National Weather Service, there's enough to scare us. And I'm really going to ask that we all emphasize not the fear, but let's also emphasize hope. That one I'm not going to use until Friday. But I'm going to ask that as we begin the fall semester, let's go back to a guy named John Locke and a guy named Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who were pioneers in the thoughts about the social contract. And the social contract is really the idea that we in a collective society take care of each other. If I drive down Blue Lakes Boulevard in the morning, I do go home at night, Jan, and so I've never been described as ideal because I'm not there, but I'm glad that I'm an ideal tenant. But when I drive down Blue Lakes in the morning or the evening, I kind of assume somebody's going to stay in their lane. I assume they're going to stop when a light is red. I assume that they're going to follow the basic protocols of traffic safety. That's part of the social contract, watching out for each other and following, if you will, the rules of the road. Well, the rules of the road in a pandemic are these kinds of things and the social distancing. The historian in me knows that sometimes when we've not done that, it hasn't gone well. The Spanish flu of 1918 and 1919 took tens of millions of people around the world. The Black Death, in a time when science wasn't terribly robust in the 1300s, took about half of Europe. We can do simple things to avoid catastrophic outcomes, and those simple things are social distancing, good hygiene, and wearing facial coverings. So I thank you for being a part of the social contract to make the College of Southern Idaho a very safe place to be. All right. I appreciate this, but at the risk of geeking out, this morning I made a comment to one of my colleagues that I felt like a little bit like a Borg from Star Trek. I have a phone in one pocket, and then I've got this microphone, and then a remote, and there. I think it's going to I think that'll hold together. Enrollment. I am so absolutely delighted with where we are for enrollment. About 2 months ago, we were sitting at a 12.5% down for the fall semester. Over the course of the summer, we've had really good collaborative work across silos, emphasis across silos. And as a result, as of this morning, Chris, we're sitting about 5% up on head count and about 1% up on credit hours. Jeff Harmon and I look at credit hours, that's the way we budget. So we're in good shape. Some thanks. I want to be sure and thank the board. I want to thank the cabinet for their welcoming and collegial attitudes, the campus community, the broader community for their hospitality and their warmness. I thank my fellow college and university presidents for their openness to collaboration. I want to be sure and thank Ginger for making it all work. And emphasis, she made it work before I even got here. Trying to work on calendar for Jeff and then calendar for me. I appreciate it, Ginger. If I forget to say thank you, thank you. And I also want to thank a guy that's not here this morning, a guy named Jim Cook. Jim Cook, President Emeritus at Rose State, for always having the faith in me and the encouragement, a dear mentor. And I will always take his words of wisdom when he's got those for me. Wow, did I have a May. I drove from New York to Oklahoma, and then from Oklahoma to here all in the course of May. Jan, with most of what I have to my name, all in a car as well. I don't know that I'm going to play 50 years out here. Probably God doesn't allow that remaining time based on my current age, but I plan to be here for a good long time. But I would like to share with you a little bit about me and perhaps why that minimalist attitude is important to me. April 1995, my hometown of Oklahoma City got shattered with the worst domestic case of terrorism still recorded, and that was the Murrah bombing. 168 people, including children, killed. Then, May 3rd, 1999, I lost my home. Wasn't the only one, but a lot of people lost their homes in the May 3rd, 1999 tornadoes. F5 tornado, you don't measure them stronger than that. Winds about 300 miles an hour or more. I've seen multiple times how hope can replace fear and bring people together. I saw it in 1995, I saw it in 1999, and I continue to see it today as we come together during an unprecedented situation. And I thank you for coming together and keeping hope alive. What defines me? What helps me to organize my thoughts? I served as a Baldrige examiner. For those of you that do not know the background of the Baldrige examination process, it's a process of continuous improvement. It's a constantly looking at process, constantly looking at data, and seeking to improve processes. I also did that in an accreditation model within the Higher Learning Commission. So when I think about systems and I look at the data that informs and guides those systems, it's just the way I'm wired. It's to look at process, it's to look at data, and it's to look at the way that we can improve that. So taking a look at that approach, what defines me in terms of the way that we're going to carry on business? It is all about the mission. There's nothing more important than the mission that is given to this institution. Now, the mission is not just educating, it's also serving. So we serve our community in many ways, but it is all about the mission. We always should be serving others beyond ourselves. Service beyond self. And I'd like to deal with this concept about students being customers. They are. I'm not going to be unambiguous about it. They are. Because students have choices. Now, I know people get into this thinking, like a retail approach. I assure you, Walmart doesn't let me just carry out a big screen TV without paying for it. They want a commodity. In our case, a commodity is the student's work. Good work that earns the appropriate grade. But they are students, they are customers. And they are customers in the sense that they have choices. So we should make our choices flexible and available and engaging. They are our customers. And it's our responsibility to serve them and to be ready where they are. Nothing really frustrates me more than when I hear people getting into conversations about a deficit model. The students aren't ready. Students are deficient. Students are the problem. My challenge is that we're going to be a student-ready institution and not worry about whether the students are ready for us. If they aren't ready for us, whose fault is that? Their parents, the education system, their socioeconomic status, their background? So what? They become our responsibility when they present themselves to us. And I don't know if you can imagine how much courage it takes for someone to sit in their car and get out of their car and present themselves to us and say, I want to change my life. That person then becomes our responsibility to help them transform. And I cannot be comfortable, I cannot be patient with language that defines them as a deficit, as a problem, or something that we need to just simply toss aside. Students are not expendable. Our language, the way we interact with them, does matter. In fact, I don't want to hear, if I can control it, the word remediation. In 1981, when I was a freshman in college, I took Calculus 1 and made an A. If there's math faculty in the room, I apologize. I just didn't enjoy it. And to my trustee that's an engineer, I just didn't want to be an engineer or a meteorologist or anything else that dealt with, going through that much math. But I fell in love with history as a result of a faculty member named Peter Denman. Dr. Denman just excited my world. And so I fell in love with that, and it's defined my life ever since. You know how much math I can do now? I can handle spreadsheets, I can balance checkbooks, but I can't work calculus. That doesn't mean that I'm not intelligent. It means that's just not where my skills are at the moment. Students are not something to be remediated. Students are something to be developed. They are something to be transformed. They are something for us to work with. So I want us organized for the student, not for the convenience of the organization. That won't be something that we do overnight. It won't be something that we do immediately. We'll have to do it in increments, but we need to organize ourselves for them, not for us. And again, it's all about the mission. I didn't zip past the budget thing just to do it on purpose. Oh my, you don't know how it's an interesting time when you get to take over a presidency in the midst of a pandemic, in the midst of a budget uncertainty. And I've had people ask me, were you angry? And I'm like, I could be angry, but guess what? We're still going to have enrollment uncertainty, we're still going to have a pandemic, and we're still going to have budget uncertainty. So I can be angry and deal with it, or I can deal with it. Anger wasn't going to change anything. So what's the budget look like? Right now, we're in good shape. We've hit our budget goals in terms of enrollment. We've handled the reductions across the campus in, I think, a very collaborative way. I want to give credit to the vice presidents that participated in those discussions. We're in okay shape. The early predictions from the Office of Revenue, predictions and reports, are that revenue's coming in on target. That's good news. But if you want me to predict what's going to happen in January in Boise, or what's going to happen next week in DC, I decline to do that. I just can't. I was inside of the sausage making in Washington, and I don't think that you want me to tell you how ugly that can look sometimes. Just turn on CNN and you'll figure it out. But we're going to hold together, and we're going to lean on each other, and we're going to get through any tough budget times. But right now, I think we're okay. Enrollment's good. The retention huddles are going to be the focus of this upcoming fall and spring semester. I want to thank Dr. Schwartz for taking over the leadership of the recruitment and retention huddles as they moved into the late summer. Those will continue once per week for the fall, focused on retention, and then as we get later into the year, focused again on recruitment. I can't emphasize enough how being part of a regular conversation about how we're going to recruit students, how we're going to get them here, how we're going to onboard them, and then how we're going to keep them, it's just part of what we should be doing. It shouldn't be an ancillary type of conversation. It is who we serve, and we need to make that our focus. Some other guiding principles. I'm going to step to the side so I can see this. It is all about the mission. Healthy organizations participate in a process of improvement, continuous improvement. That doesn't mean that you change things just to change them. But for people that say that they don't like change, how many of us are volunteering that we don't want indoor plumbing, that we want flip phones, that we want dial-up internet? We like change. We do like change. And a forecast today of 100 degrees in Twin Falls, we like air conditioning too. So we do like change. Change guided with purpose to serve our students. We focus on the customer. Our discussion should be process-centered and process-centered, resulting in improvements for the student experience. I want facts. Facts based on our data or facts based on good practice elsewhere, but not antidote. A while back, a colleague on campus was challenging me about the impact of dual enrollment and said, you know, dual enrollment has resulted in us having radically fewer 18 and 19-year-olds on campus. I invite you to take a look at a few weeks ago. We're about 3% off of the number of 18 and 19-year-olds compared to a decade ago. Dual enrollment isn't causing radical declines in our enrollment, but if the data is compelling to you, it's students over the 18 and 19-year-old group. That's where our losses are. So I challenge you to reflect. How well do we, how flexibly do we serve our non-traditional student population? Do we provide services to them in flexible ways? Do we provide scheduling and program options to them in flexible ways? If not, why not? And if not, we shall. And my practice will be to over-communicate. President's Notes is not just a thing that I start and then stop at some point. It's what I do. I like to regularly communicate with people. I can't possibly have 500 conversations with every employee. We're going to have conversations, if you will, in a virtual way through President's Notes. The continuous improvement cycle, look at the process, look at the results, and then figure out how you're going to improve is part of the way that I think. So I invite you to partner with me in those conversations. There's some movies that I like, music that I like you're also getting acquainted with. One of the movies that I like is the movie Arthur with Dudley Moore. I can't find any remote teaching purpose tied to that other than it's just funny. But the movie, Oh God, with George Burns, I looked for a picture of him without a cigar. You know how hard that is to find a picture of George Burns without a cigar, so I gave up. George Burns in the movie Oh God was asked a question, with all of your power, God, why don't you fix our problems? And the response, George Burns' God back was, I did solve all of your problems. I gave you each other. You can kill each other, you can love each other, you can help each other. We're moving into a really nutty time. Dr. Swartz was very correct. There is no playbook. I can't find it anywhere on any shelf that I've got, any book that I've ever read, where it says, here's a playbook for a pandemic. But I do know that we can lean on each other. And so the late Bill Withers, his words were simple. There's going to be pain, there's going to be sorrow, but sometimes you have to take faith in the hope that there's tomorrow. Watch it if you haven't in a while. It's a fun movie. But this is not what we're going to offer students. We're not going to offer them that they're desperately trying to reach for their higher education through a pile of bureaucracy. My questions about our bureaucracy and our processes is why? If we don't need to do it, if we have no legal or statutory requirement to do it, if we can't prove that it helps the student experience, why? So we're going to fix this. So a few weeks ago, I asked for Student Experience Task Force volunteers, and I was overwhelmed, literally, by the campus I'll be part. And so Ginger and I are going to sit down with all of the folks that have volunteered over the last several weeks and divide those up. And a little bit of wisdom came to me, or a lot, I guess you'll decide that, of dividing that into two groups. One will be on the onboarding process. How do we move them from high school to college? How do we make that a seamless process, that onboarding? And the other is the student experience focused on retention. If you will, it's the retention and it's the recruitment part of the conversation. That group is going to have to, those groups are going to have really tight timelines because I want to implement those to meaningfully impact both the fall recruitment cycle and also retention of them. So we'll charter them next week. We'll get them together. We'll give them as much support as we can out of the Office of the President and ask that they get back to us by mid-October with some recommendations. And then where they make sense and they're feasible, we'll get them implemented because it's the right thing to do for our students. Kevin Mark, our Chief Information Officer, is sitting here. And later in the week, he'll be providing an opportunity for folks in the campus community to learn more about Project Polaris. And Project Polaris is all about selecting and implementing a new ERP. Now, a long time ago, I got asked to be a part of an ERP committee, which seems strange, you know, and it sounds strange at some levels, that would you be in charge of ERP? I chaired it. We selected ultimately a new platform, Enterprise Resource Planning. In essence, it's a software that integrates the entire organizational experience. So student information, human capital, financial planning, all of those things all come together in an ERP. We have seven organizations that have submitted proposals to be our new ERP. We're going to go through those in a very purposeful way. There will be opportunities for the campus to learn more about them, information sessions, and then we'll go through the process of selecting a new ERP. Genzabar is not going to go away overnight, but we are in the process of figuring out what to do post Genzabar, and Kevin Mark and his team will be leading that effort. I want to thank the board for their support financially in a tough budget time to make sure that we can do that. It's the right thing to do. Accreditation news. We are in remarkably good shape. No, I shouldn't say remarkably. This is a good organization. We are in good shape for accreditation. The learning reports in terms of learning assessment were received, accepted, no follow-up action. The baccalaureate report received, acknowledged, no follow-up action. Between now and 2022, we're going to have some annual updates with the Northwest Commission. Those are mostly descriptive things about our students, about the budget, about enrollment. And then we'll have the ramp up for the site visit in 2022. Our accreditation liaison officer, Dean Chris Bragg, will be leading those efforts along with folks from across the campus community. More to come on that, but it's just going to be around the corner, really. That image there at the bottom is helpful to frame in mind what the Northwest Commission is thinking about in terms of equity. Equality, you might think of as, hey, we just throw up the door and if they sink, they sink. Not good language. Equity is about making sure that we provide every support feasible and possible to assure that our students are successful. Again, being student ready. So when we begin to disaggregate the data, we look at particular groups of students. Are they successful or are they not? And if they are not, shouldn't it be our process of engaging in conversations about equity to help them to achieve? We should be focused on every student's success. And that's what equity is going to be about. one of the ways that we can achieve equity is to engage in empathy. Quote from Albert Einstein, I'll just paraphrase it. Empathy is all about seeing someone else and their experience. We put our students through too much. We put our students through too much of a bureaucracy. And I shall be a part of helping to change that. We must see the student experience through their lens and not ours. So the first steps in achieving this equity is to disaggregate data, look at the gaps. Those gaps could be in courses. I'm not going to say that the faculty is the issue there. It could be that the students need supplemental instruction. It could be co-requisites. There's a variety of ways that we might respond, but figuring out what the student experience is and figuring out solutions. I believe that we need to listen to the student voice. We need to engage in very diligent and thorough and ongoing conversations with the students to let them guide us in improving ourselves. So student focus groups. And if anybody knows what that picture is from, it's from the 1944 movie Lifeboat. Tallulah Bankhead and others were on that movie, or in that movie. And I'm thinking, I don't want us to think of students as something to throw over the side of the lifeboat. I want us to start with the full boat and finish with the full boat. And if you know the movie, they're always figuring out, okay, this person, they're old, throw them over the side of the ship. Oh, this person is sick, throw them over the side of the boat. We mustn't think about students that way. And I won't. Planning Council is going to be reconvened. If you're interested in serving on that, let me know. We'll have details coming in this week or next week's President's Notes about getting that process underway. It's going to have a really tight timeline, but it will have mechanisms that I want built in that provide accountability. And to the extent that we can, I want leading measures, not lagging measures. Leading measures are, we figure it out before it's a problem, as opposed to the lagging measure, oh my goodness, we didn't get enrollment done. So leading rather than lagging. And governance. I will be inviting here in a few hours for the Faculty Senate to designate a faculty member to serve on cabinet. We need to have that as part of a participative shared process. President's Notes will continue. I will be organizing something a little different than First Friday. I don't want it to be a conversation about talking at people. It's more of a conversation about solutions. So I'm calling them solution summits. How do we spend money more efficiently? In essence, how do we save money? It could also be how we generate money. And then also I want to talk about retention and student success. And we'll be talking more about shared governance as we go into September. Some additional thanks. I want to say again what Chair Mitleider said earlier. I want to thank what I would consider one of our superheroes of the spring and the summer, and that's Spencer Cutler and his team. Spencer, thank you for keeping the campus both beautiful and safe, and doing it with fewer staff than ever before. And I appreciate it. So I want you to know that comes from the board, it comes from me, it comes from the cabinet. We appreciate all that you've done. Now with that, thanks. I don't want to see you running around the campus with a cape anytime soon, okay? You're a superhero, but don't exaggerate it. When I was here in March as a candidate, I was walking around the campus and Jason Lloyd, Heidi Adams, and John Lord were the group escorting me around the campus. And they showed me this tower and said, we got a tower. And I'm like, I've seen it. If you have eagle eyes, you'll notice that the tower that I put on the screen is the one that I saw for 30 years at the Rose State College campus in Oklahoma. And I don't think it was planned, but my 4-digit extension number here at the college is the same 4 digits that I had at Rose. So if you're a spiritual person, I kind of think I'm supposed to be here. Or at least some higher power is having a great laugh, if not. But that tower at Rose chimed on the hour and the half hour, and it was the same chimes as we hear now. So beyond the thanks for Spencer and what he's done, I also want to make sure that I offer a quick thanks to Bruce Nakaya, who I understand was the galvanizing force behind making sure that our tower wasn't just out there standing tall, but it also was signaling the hour and the half hours. So thank you, Bruce. And a final reminder, please, invite hope into your space, not fear. And if you don't like Maya Angelou, well, shame on you. But let me quote as my closing thought, the words of Alexander Dumas, the father, Alexander Dumas père, in The Count of Monte Cristo. You know, he'd led a life of anger and was focused on revenge, and ultimately he came to realize that helping others was an important part of what we're on the planet to do. And The Count of Monte Cristo, his final words of wisdom were, you know, fear not, beloved children of my heart, for until the day that God deigns to give his wisdom to us, all human wisdom can be captured in just a few words: wait and hope. Keep hope alive, cling to hope, because it's our best antidote to get through this until there's another antidote called a vaccine. Thanks. Well, thank you. And somebody else is in charge of the next bit of making the technology work. I stopped sharing and okay. Chris, or someone that's got a program in front of you, what's next? Randy.
Thank you, President Fisher. Let's move right along here. The only thing that softened the blow of Deb Wilson's recent retirement was knowing that the CSI Foundation was being taken over by another capable leader. Joining President Fisher to present the Faculty of the Year Awards, our new CSI Foundation Executive Director, Brandy Turnipseed.
Good morning. It's my pleasure to be here and with excitement as well as the new Foundation Executive Director. We're seeing lots of students in our office, which is a great thing. The reason I'm here today is each year, faculty members are nominated by students and peers to be recognized as one of CSI's Instructor of the Year. These nominations are a testament of the many outstanding faculty we have here at CSI. It is my pleasure to announce the 2019-2020 CSI Academic, Career, and Technical Faculty of the Year. I'll introduce each one of these individually and talk about their nomination process. So once you're introduced, come on up and receive your award. The CTE Faculty of the Year recipient is described as a person that always connects with students during class as well as outside of class. A student described him as a person that can talk to any student based on their interests and tie any concept into life. He always goes out of his way for the students and is also an advocate for the students. Serving 17 years as a faculty member here at CSI, both in the academic departments and CTE departments, your 2019-2020 CTE Faculty of the Year Award goes to Mr. Bill Ebener. Thank you, Bill, and congratulations. Our academic faculty of the year is a recipient that is described as a faculty member that makes content relevant by showing how things apply to everyday life. I think we're seeing a trend here. One student states that the only thing that he truly cares about is his students. And another goes on to say his number one priority is his students. And he makes it clear not only by saying it, but also by his actions. Lastly, I think this description sums it all up. The man is obviously intelligent, professional, and passionate about chemistry, but he is also surprisingly funny. Your 2019-2020 Academic Faculty of the Year goes to Dr. Joshua DeGroot. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandy and Dr. Fisher. Being the Director of Human Resources means being the first call for every personal problem, being the author and enforcer of every rule, and being that guy who shows up unexpectedly to say, "Can we talk privately?" So, helping President Fisher and Vice President Schwartz with the Employee Longevity Awards is probably the most fun this guy will have all year. Please welcome Eric Nielsen.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate that. And you're probably right. So if we could have all of the 10, 20, and 30-year-old recipients come up on to the ramp, please. This group of people have been here for quite some time. They talk about helping students, talk about saving lives, talk about starting lives, talking about changing lives. And I think this is a great testament to everybody here at the college and the community. So we'd like to celebrate this group. We'd like to start with our 10-year award winners, and afterwards we can have pictures out the side door. So when I call your name, please come to the stage. Celebrating 10 years, Kay Nebaker. Shelley Jones. Samra Cullum. Carol Anderson. Robin Bajet. We also have a few individuals that could not join us this morning. We've got Anita Tadji. And Tara Nunnally. For our 20-year longevity award, we'll start with Isabella Bagdazarova. Ginger Nakaya. Mark Daly. Cynthia Gerhardt. Thane Schaefer. This next group have spent 30 years here at CSI, and I want to thank them both. And let's have a great round of applause for Terry Woodland. I'd like to thank Deb Wilson for coming back for this special day. Let's give a round of applause for all of our Longevity Award winners.
Thank you, Eric. It's hard to imagine a previous CSI state of the college to which we would invite a medical professional, but we're very glad to be joined remotely by St. Luke's Vice President of Medical Affairs, Dr. Joshua Kern.
Yes, thank you. Hopefully you can all hear me okay. I don't even know if anyone would be able to alert me if you couldn't, so I'm going to just kind of proceed ahead. It's a very unusual event, as noted, being out on vacation, my last kind of vacation for summer out here in the mountains. And normally if I were there in person giving a public speaking event, I would have a jacket on, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it given that I'm on vacation. The other interesting thing about giving this talk right now is, of course, I can't see anybody but myself on the little screen up at the top. And hopefully, oh yeah, hi everybody. Now I can see the back of your heads here in the auditorium. The other funny thing about my head being so big is, you know, I think you can see how uncontrollably expressive my eyebrows are, which normally if I were up there on the stage, you would not probably be able to see that. But here on the screen, I'm guessing you can pick that up. As noted, my name is Dr. Joshua Kern. I've been a physician in Jerome for the last 12 years. I actually don't know who all in that audience I know. I'd probably recognize some faces, I imagine. For the last 3 years, have been the Vice President of Medical Affairs for St. Luke's, which has thrust me into an unusual situation also of really thinking a lot about one particular virus over the last 6 to 8 months. I have been part of our Central Incident Command, part of the medical technical team that's been making the kind of medical and procedural decisions for St. Luke's as the entire system. It's been a very weird and unprecedented time, but an interesting one to say the least. I've been on the news a lot more than I imagined I would be for my position, but it has been what it's been. And I'm going to share just a few thoughts on how encouraged I am about how you can do this safely, how you can run a college and deal with the protocols for COVID. I'll share our experience within St. Luke's, starting with the kind of lows and then moving to current times. As you might have seen in the news, we had our first outbreak of COVID in Idaho, really primarily up in Blaine County, a significant outbreak that started towards the end of March and continued into the beginning of April. Just to be honest, we, even as a healthcare organization, were not prepared for what was coming. We knew it was coming. We had already started planning, but we had not gotten to the place where we had all of our procedures in place, where we're ready to deal with such a significant outbreak in one community. And what we found was that the virus got into the hospital and started getting our own employees sick. We, at one point, had 100 out of 180 employees out with COVID or on quarantine from really high-risk exposures to the virus. And that's what led to the closing of the hospital that was on the news. You know, we ended up having to shut down St. Luke's Wood River because we simply couldn't safely operate the facility because of lack of staff. And, you know, that's kind of a low point for me in my career, just thinking that we got overwhelmed by a virus, given that we're a healthcare organization. But the reality is this was an unprecedented event, and we continue dealing with it. And now our experience is, if you fast forward, you know, 6 months, we have done a lot of work and now have probably well over 1,000, if not thousands, of touches with known COVID positive patients within our health system every day. And we do not see significant in-hospital spread of the virus. So I think, you know, it's pretty illustrative that when you get your procedures in order, you really follow the plans, you maintain physical distancing, which I'm seeing in the auditorium, you're doing well there, and wear masks, we are able to control this virus. Within St. Luke's, we have had a spread of the virus still within the hospital. And what we see is that it's basically always in break rooms with people sort of getting lax or taking their masks off for extended periods of time and hanging out for long periods of time. But in our patient care with known COVID positive patients that are sick with fever and coughing, we really are not seeing a significant spread of the virus from those patients to our employees. And so again, it just tells you that you are able to control this thing, to safely operate a facility. St. Luke's has 14,000 employees. You know, you can keep your people safe. You can keep, in your case, students safe. For us, it's patients. But in the way that you interact with them, it's, you know, I think parallels can be drawn. So maybe just a word of encouragement that I do think it's very reasonable to have in-person classes. I've been in favor of the schools reopening as well, but as long as the appropriate safety procedures are in place and that we're using masks, because at this point the data does seem to be very clear that masks prevent spread of the virus. I would say, you know, I'm deeply in favor of both CSI and education broadly. Obviously, having been a physician, I spent a lot of time in school. I find myself back in school. I'm getting an executive MBA at Boise State right now. We finished up our first year as the virus and the pandemic started in the spring. And I just started my second year with my orientation Saturday up in Boise. And it was different being in our executive MBA class, all spread out, wearing masks. They had really stringent rules in place, some of them maybe even slightly more stringent than we are even doing in St. Luke's. But I felt like, you know, this can work. We can do in-class sessions spread out with masks on and get the quality education that we want to get while being safe. Those are basically my prepared comments, meant for it to be pretty brief, and just a word of encouragement from St. Luke's and from St. Luke's Magic Valley in particular, where we have a close relationship with CSI, and many of our employees have have gotten their education in some way, shape, or form from CSI. So appreciate the opportunity to come help be part of kicking off this school year. And I'll be available and online here for a few more minutes as needed.
Thank you, Dr. Kern. We appreciate you joining us. I can't find a place to park. We need stripes in the parking lot. The sidewalks aren't where they really need to be. My office is too cold. Why do we have to turn the air conditioner off on the hottest days? Construction again? Just a little of what he deals with every day and still manages to be one of the nicest guys on campus. Please welcome CSI Physical Plant Director, Spencer Cutler.
Good morning. So I have a story. Chair Mittleiter mentioned that this week is a significant anniversary for her. It's also a significant anniversary for me. 20 years ago that I came to the CSI campus. But let me paint the whole picture. So I had long, thick, wavy brown hair. It was luscious. I had been out of high school for 3 years and didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I was working as a rough carpenter, concrete form setter, and I thought, well, I'll give it a shot. And I came to CSI last minute, got registered for class, got some financial aid details worked out, and it changed my life, and it was excellent. I took a speech class from Chris Bragg. I took environmental science from Jan Simpkin. I took physics from Mark Daly. I did have to withdraw from one of his classes and start over, but I eventually made it. But 20 years ago, I never imagined I'd actually be back here and getting paid to perform a great job here. I need to thank everybody else on campus that has helped maintenance. Faculty, staff from individual programs and departments all across campus have put so much of their own energy and effort into helping us get our job done. I know how many work orders we still have pending, how many emails and voicemails we haven't replied to yet. And when all of you do what you do to help us, it means everything. Stuff between performing some of your own tasks, just because you're there, you feel like you have the time and you could just get it done. Developing your own plans and presenting them to us and saying, does this look good? All the things you do, we appreciate it so much for helping us get our job done. And the maintenance department, I am so happy to be with this department and appreciate every day with the employees we have and the things that they've done. I'll share with you a few things around campus we've done to try to minimize the risk of transmitting the coronavirus. It ranges from custodial practices to mechanical issues to just daily habits. Our custodians, they are rolling the proverbial round stone up a mountain. No matter how hard they work each day, when they return the next morning, it's like starting from scratch. It can be demoralizing, but I hope they see it as more of a prideful thing than something that just gets them down. I know most of them do. You change the atmosphere and environment and feeling in a building. With the onset of COVID, have had to change things, but not a lot. They practiced such good standards before that we were nearly in line with everything the CDC was recommending for institutions of higher education. It's a great crew and what they've done is excellent. Specifically because of the coronavirus, just want to make you aware of certain things. We use cleaning agents that are EPA approved. Primarily, we use a hydrogen peroxide-based disinfectant, very commonly used in hospitals, professional offices, and educational institutions. The custodians have a daily routine for each building that they go through. From a mechanical heating and ventilating perspective, we've increased the fresh air that's being brought into every building. So prior to any pandemic concerns, there's always a minimum amount of fresh air that's brought into buildings to keep CO2 levels down. We try to minimize that typically to save energy and make it easier to heat and cool rooms. However, in order to try to keep as much fresh air as possible, each building has more air brought in now. Some cases that has been increased by 50%, some cases doubled, some cases even much more than that. It varies from building to building and based on each system. The crew's also gone through and replaced filters. I don't have a count of how many filters, but annually we spend tens of thousands of dollars just on air filters. So that's how many they've had to go through and increase the level of filter. The filters they're using campus-wide now will capture 80 to 90% of particles in the air. Of course, a virus is smaller than something that a filter can capture. However, the filters capture dust particles, water vapor, and particles that viruses would adhere to. We've also purchased 115 units that are starting to arrive and will be deploying around campus. These units are made by a company called Synexus, and they produce dry hydrogen peroxide. I know what the sales brochures have told me about it. Some of the faculty here probably have a lot better knowledge about how this works than I do, but it has been proven in medical institutions across the world. But these devices are plugged into a typical wall outlet. They run 24 hours a day, and they produce individual dry hydrogen peroxide molecules. They are very effective against viruses, but well below levels that are safe for humans. And again, these have been used in hospitals and professional offices, sports complex, all over, and are well tested. Also want to talk about hygiene. We have several hundred hand sanitizer stations around campus, but I want to reemphasize the importance of washing hands. That's why health professionals always talk about washing your hands. 20 seconds of washing your hands can actually mechanically remove or physically remove more pathogens than a disinfectant. When a disinfectant says it's 99% effective, well, that's with a certain amount of wet time on your skin. And when you rush through and quickly wipe it on, it's not going to be as effective as washing your hands. So restrooms, we'll do our best to keep all restrooms stocked with soap, paper towels, trash will be emptied daily, things like that. Now, I brought 2 pages of notes of details. I'm not going to go into that. I think I've hit the highlights, but I just want to let you know we take our job serious. We're really happy to be here and look forward to people coming back. I am a friendly person, but I tend to be introverted, but I actually am looking forward to less time by myself, and I'm glad that I get to finally see people roaming the halls, doing their jobs. So welcome back, everybody, and thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you, Spencer. Thank you, everyone. Have a great semester, and please be safe.